What do you think about the in-person versus remote? I mean, I have a bias that still in person, not necessarily going to work in person every day. That's a whole different topic. Companies talking about bringing people in from working remote.
Hmm.
What I'm just talking about is building relationships with, say, customers. How do you feel like in this large organization you're referencing? Like, what do you think is going to work the best to help you and your team, get to know the people that you're going to be working with the best?
Wow, such a great question. And I kind of think the answer is depends on the situation, honestly. You talk about different personality types. I think some people, it can work really well. I think the best guarantee that it's going to work well is probably doing stuff in person. Um, I think back in my career, I had worked with this guy. I was I think I was in Ohio for part of it, and I moved to Colorado, and he's always been in Portland, Oregon, right? And we had been on calls and worked together for years and years. And this is before video, so
Okay.
I'm kind of dating myself, I guess. But we actually had a really good relationship, and there was some trust there, um, a lot of mutual trust, and this and that. Well, fast forward, I don't know, 10 years later or something. I'm in. I don't even think I was in Portland. I was somewhere, a company event, and I'm sitting down in this conference room, and this guy starts talking next to me. I'm like, and I look over, and it's him. Like I'd never seen him. I had no
Oh,
idea what
wow.
he looked like.
Yeah.
I knew the voice because we had been working together, right, for years.
Yeah.
That was a kind of a surreal moment. So I don't know, in that case, it was totally fine.
Yeah. It worked for me.
Working through really complex, uncomfortable conversation stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I think you can do it, but I do think you're handicapped. I
Yeah.
do think you're handicapped when you get together in a room, in a conference room, and you're with people, and you can see them, you can read the body language and see the facial expressions, and kind of get a little bit better feel for intent behind that.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that's better. You said you have a bias. I'm guessing I know what that is, but what is your bias?
Well, before I answer that, so how long were you working with that person before you literally sat next to them?
Honestly, I think it was, if I say 10 years, I don't think I'm exaggerating. I think it was
Wow.
probably pretty close to that.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
thought you were gonna say like 6 months.
No, it was years. It was several,
Yeah.
probably close, somewhere around 10 years.
Yeah. But I think that's kind of unique. I mean, that, you both were in the mindset that you were going to make it work. I mean, I think that's the first key. Um, I think, well, my bias is in person initially.
Yep.
Um, I just think there's so much that goes along with that, and building trust and building a relationship, and the quote showing up, like literally showing up.
Yeah.
Um, I think sitting across the table, having a cup of coffee, it just breaks down barriers if there were any.
Right.
And I just put this post out recently, or today, I think, about, you know, we've learned so much around sitting around the dinner table growing up, and then you
Hmm.
continue to do that in business with colleagues and customers around the quote dinner table. Um, so there's something there. Now, you know, can we work together? I mean, do we all end up working together apart? Yes, right. But I think in the beginning, especially, whatever we can do to make that happen. I think video like this even works,
Yeah.
um, to some extent. But I think there is something with the in person that's still important.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Having the visual, I forget, I read, and I was reading an article about that at one point. In the video, it's some high percentage of how we communicate is visual.
Mm.
And so having the camera is super important. And so, when you have these meetings, and some of our clients we work with, everybody's on camera all the time. That is the culture. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Others, not so much. And I know I'm guilty of it too. I exercise every day, and I get up first thing in the morning. What I have to do is I have really early meetings, and so I'm just meeting until I can find a chance to go exercise. And my
Yeah.
hair gets nuts, so I don't like to go on camera.
Right.
But I think that's a really important thing. But the dinner table, that's a really good point. And then in the coffee, just to add on to that a little bit, it's when you're in a business setting, you have a meeting, you have a purpose. Everybody's there to talk about a particular thing. And even with video, it's really helpful. But what you don't get are those more informal conversations. Hey, I was just out plowing, 5 inches of snow conversation, and my dog likes to sled ride down the hill. You don't get any of that. And then you
Yeah.
kind of get to know the person. What's their background?
Yeah.
So I think that kitchen table, that kind of makes me think a little bit like, you're right. That's your family. You're sitting around. I mean, you are in person. You're just talking about the events of the day, or whatever the hot topic is, and you get to know each other really well. And um, those times in the hall or at coffee or outside of those meetings where you have a set thing that you're trying to accomplish, that time's really invaluable if you're trying to build relationships. So
Yeah.
I'm right there with you on that.